I mean, like, there were so many great parts about this trip, but I'm telling you, I was having a fucking moment just walking around by myself. So I'm easy. I'm a low maintenance girl.
Can you imagine the people downstairs looking at the security footage of you just walking around the Beauty and the Beast
Oh my
section,
God, I
singing?
never
They're probably
thought about
They're
that.
probably like, come here, and like calling your friends over and
Like,
they're
this
watching
girl's
you.
crying. Oh, shit. I probably looked insane because they were all on Tron, and like you can put your stuff in a locker on Tron, but everybody had like a little fanny pack or a little backpack.
Oh, so you just
so
had
I'm
a
wearing
shit ton of
everybody's bags.
Oh, you didn't tell me
And I'm
that.
walking around with 5 backpacks, singing and crying,
Texting me.
texting you.
Little town, it's a quiet.
I'm telling you,
village.
I was on the edge.
Yes, I've had the odd complaints, but on the whole, I've been a saint. To those poor unfortunate souls.
Hello, and welcome to Poor Unfortunate Podcast. I'm Connor Perkins.
And I'm Caroline Ametti.
Welcome to all of our returning listeners. It's great having you back here with us. And welcome to all of our new listeners. Thank you so much for hitting play. Please also remember to hit download or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast, so all of our episodes download to your device. You don't miss out on anything. And at the end of the episode, or right now or whenever, hit 5 stars and leave a written review wherever you're listening to the podcast. That way we're seen in search results. Other people can see what you've liked about the podcast and they might hit play. It's really, really helpful for us getting seen. And if you want to let us know where you found our podcast, if you're new, throw that into the review as well. So that way we can know where you're coming from. And that all helps. All right, so this is season 4.
Woohoo!
And we're just going to dive right into the episode because we don't do news
That's
in the full
right.
episodes anymore.
That's
so,
right.
welcome to our first Rant and Rave of season 4.
Yay!
Caroline, you want to tell the folks what we're doing? This may be the most unhinged podcast we've done.
Yeah, we figured you all know us by now, unless you're new, and you're going to learn really fast.
Very fast.
But we were tossing around some ideas. We're like, wow, first Rant and Rave of season 4. And we've kicked off some other seasons with some pretty heavy hitting topics. But the thing that we kept coming back to, and I think it's been a discussion a lot on social media lately, and I think that's why we started talking about it, is basically hot Disney animals. We've all talked about it. We've never taken it on face on. And so now it's time. So my rant is going to be more about a Disney animal who I think is hot as a human. And there's been a discussion about that. So we'll get into that. And then Connor's going to talk about a Disney animal. We all
Who's
think
hot
he's
as an
hot.
animal.
We all think it. And
He's
now,
hot.
now we can start saying it out loud. So like,
Absolutely.
we're really going to get comfortable with each other in this episode and really explore what's hot in Disney animals.
And what's not.
And what's not.
All right, you have the rant, so you're
That's
going
right.
first.
Right. All right.
Kick it off.
So before I give my official introduction to this, I would
To
like
your
to say,
dissertation.
yes, that's right. I think this came about for me for 2 main reasons. I mean, it's something I'm always thinking about, but recently I feel like this topic has come up a lot on social media, and so we'll get into that discussion. But also, as I want to do, I'm always looking at, what Loungefly bag am I going to buy? And I still haven't bought one. And I pulled one up, and I showed my husband. I was like, oh my God, I think I found the Loungefly bag that I'm going to buy. I think this is the one. And it's a Loungefly of the Beast in his human form, who in this rant we will refer to as Prince Adam, which has basically been established as his name. And he was like, that's the one you're going to get? You love him like that? And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I really do. So here's my rant about why those on social media, largely, who are saying that Prince Adam isn't hot are incorrect. So I think it's generally accepted that we all have like the one or two Disney princes that we claim as our main crushes. So Connor has Prince Eric, and I have Prince Adam, also known as the human form of the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Prince Adam is one of mine too.
Yeah,
and Flynn Rider is everybody.
And I was about to say we both have Flynn. I don't know. Ever since I was little, the transformation scene in Beauty and the Beast would really make me feel things. I watched the film in French class in high school, and I was like, oh, yep, this still does it for me.
She's just being like, oh, I've got the tingle right here with all my friends.
Yeah, kind of. I was like, oh my God. So listen, here we go. I know that Disney prince preference is a very personal thing, and I would never pretend to tell anyone which prince is the most attractive. Hotness is still very much in the eye of the beholder. But on a side note, thank you to our friend and friend of the pod, Gabby, for reminding me about the Disney Hot Man meeting, in which the animators of Tangled, led by Glenn Keane, the Beast's supervising animator, so please keep that in mind, they asked women from the studio to look at hundreds of possible versions of Flynn Rider and tell them what they found attractive. And although they were able to funnel this feedback into the version of Flynn we love today, and like I mentioned earlier, I think he is my runner-up for the hottest prince, the opinions were all over the place. We all have our own taste. Some people in the comments of the video that I was watching about the Hot Man meeting commented that Flynn is not hot, which to me is just wild, but it just goes to show you.
It's wrong.
It just goes to show you everybody's got a different taste. However, the debate continues to resurface on the internet about whether Prince Adam is hot or not, with a truly upsetting number of people claiming that he's not. Now, don't get me wrong. If you find the Beast and like him and his beast form hot, totally go off. But I definitely am ready to go to battle with anyone claiming that Adam is not hot as a standalone human. What really gets me is that some folks on X and TikTok are trying to say that Belle is clearly not into the human form of the creature formerly known as Beast. So while hotness is largely subjective, I can prove that Adam is most definitely attractive in Belle's eyes.
Do it.
And why he fits the exact attractiveness standards set forth in the text of this film and the needs of the story, and looks perfect exactly the way that he is.
If I could snap, I would start snapping.
Thank you. So as we always have to do, just a little tiny bit of background information. We'll make it quick. So Beauty and the Beast was released on November 22nd, 1991, directed by Gary Truesdale and Kirk Weiss, based on Beauty and the Beast by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. Did not know that the original story was written by a woman. Oh my God. And the screenplay written by Linda Wolverton. So woman power. I love it. We have a lot of people in the story. I'm not going to read through all of them. Don Hahn is the producer, and it is starring, among others, Paige O'Hara as Belle, Robbie Benson as the Beast, Richard White as Gaston, Jerry Orbach as Lumiere, Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Potts, David Ogden Stiers as Cogsworth, and Rex Everhart as Maurice. So the plot. We all know the story. But the key here is this fact. An enchantress disguised as a beggar woman visits the castle of a cruel and selfish prince, offering him an enchanted rose in exchange for shelter from a storm. When he refuses, she reveals her identity and transforms the prince into a beast and his servants into household objects. The spell will only be broken if the prince learns to love another and be loved in return before the last petal falls, or he will remain a beast forever. Local village gal Belle ends up being the one to break the spell, and as she professes her love over the body of the fatally wounded beast, the spell is broken right before the last petal falls, restoring the prince to his human form and sparing his life. So let me make one thing clear as we get into this discussion. This is only about the 1991 animated film. We are not discussing the 2017 live-action remake, and we are not discussing any parks appearances of Prince Adam, as rare as they might be, as I take issue with both of those versions of him. I have issues like with the hair and costuming and general depiction of the love story in the live action film. We've been there before. We're not going to rehash that. And with any limited parks appearances of Prince Adam, I have a huge wig problem. But I feel like my taking issue with these two versions of Prince Adam is kind of proof that his animated version is so hot because no costume or wig or real human being could ever live up to the Adonis that the animators of this film have gifted to us. There's even a template, and I saw this today and it pissed me off. There's a template going around on Instagram, and Connor, I will send it to you so you can see. There is a template going around on Instagram right now where you circle your 3 favorite Disney princes. And in this, Adam looks absolutely nuts. Like, who drew him like that? That isn't what he looks like. He looks bad. Why is he getting so lost in translation? Like, why are these versions we see of him so far off from his animated version? And honestly, I think part of it is that's because he's so perfectly gorgeous in the film that it's very difficult to replicate. Some folks argue that Adam almost exclusively appearing in his beast form in the parks proves that everyone likes him better in that form. But I truly beg to differ. So first of all, it's just easier to cast a performer to wear the Beast furry costume than to find an actor who actually looks like Adam. Do we like Ariel better as a human than a mermaid? And that's why she is most often human when she meets guests? No. It's easier for a character to walk around than to just have Ariel sitting still in her grotto. Bottom line, Adam is in his Beast form for 98% of the film. It's the most recognizable version we have of him, and the one that we as an audience are inevitably going to feel more connected to because we look at it the longest.
And the same is true for Rapunzel because, like, we don't see her in the parks with her brown, like, little bob moment thing that she's got. Like,
exactly.
We know her because of her blonde hair, so she's wearing she's in her blonde hair in the park. Because
Exactly.
kids are like, that's Rapunzel. They look around, they'd be like, who's this brunette woman?
Right, exactly. At the end of the day, it's Beauty and the Beast. It's not Beauty and the Prince. So that is what it is. And as far as merch goes, I had Adam in his human form as a doll. Thank you very much.
Oh, was he the one with the hood that came off the Beast?
Yes, of course.
Face hood.
Of
yes,
course.
We had that too.
That was one of my favorite toys.
I got to play with him.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like,
and he had the sparkly bib.
Yes, he did. He did. It was a great toy.
It was a fantastic.
Yes,
Barbie.
and so that's a great point because number one, not only is Beast merchandise going to be more recognizable, but it's going to have a wider appeal to kids who maybe don't necessarily want to play with a prince or a princess. Like for my brother was super into playing with the Beast. So my final point, not that there are such things as spoilers for this film anymore, but like, his human form is sort of a spoiler. So there's that. So let's start with how the text and the given circumstances of the film support what Adam looks like. So I am going to start debunking several of the arguments I have read about and seen online that are in favor of changing what Adam looks like. So first of all, there is the argument that he should look more like the Beast. You can find several redesigned versions of Adam on social media that make him look more brooding, dark-haired, and honestly hairy in general. There is an argument that this would make his human appearance more related to his Beast form and perhaps therefore hotter. But him looking unlike the Beast is the entire point. The enchantress transformed the prince in order to teach him a lesson. She wasn't like, oh, let's give you some blemishes and maybe too much hair and you're sort of not good looking. No.
Yeah,
she said,
here's a zit. You're ugly now.
She
rude.
Said, no, I'm going to turn you into a creature that prevents you from ever recognizing yourself so you can truly learn to change everything that's going on inside of you, detach from appearances, and learn how to love. This is a complete transformation into a creature, not an adjustment of his human looks. This is where the stakes are. He has to literally learn how to love, and he had to have every exterior thing he relied upon taken away from him. These very burly, bearded redesigns of Adam that you can find online also completely clash with the given circumstances of the text of Beauty and the Beast. So the narrator states at the beginning of the film that the rose would bloom until his 21st year. So by the time Belle arrives at the castle, the rose is already on its way to wilting, indicating that Adam is almost 21 years old. Glenn Keane confirmed this in the Beauty and the Beast extended edition commentary, saying that Adam's 21st birthday would occur at some point after the enchanted rose had lost all of its petals. And Belle is somewhere between 18 and 20 years old. Her supervising animator, James Baxter, said she is a few years older than Ariel. I hope that we would all be a bit uncomfortable with someone her age falling in love with a man who looks like he would be in at least his mid-30s based on some of the redesigns that I've seen online. So remember, these are two people who are around 20 years old. Adam's long hair, bright eyes, and smooth face are the looks of a 20 to 21-year-old. And remembering that Belle and Adam are two young people still trying to figure out who they are makes the story even more special to me and should not be changed. It's not the same when it's this 35-year-old man learning not to be a selfish asshole. It doesn't hit the same way.
Yeah.
There's also the 1700s France setting of this film. Adam's appearance is also what would be considered attractive in 1700s France. He has long, full hair with a hairless face. Shaving became popular in the 1750s. And a special emphasis was put on men's calves during this era. And we get a nice shot of those
his legs
during
are
the transformation scene. He's got nice calves.
He would not be able to ride Flight of Passage with those calves.
That's right. It's so true. If you look up the portrait of Armand de Gramont, the Comte de Guiche, a French nobleman and one of the most notorious playboys of the 17th century, so granted a little bit before Adam's time, you will definitely see traces of our prince in there. He was also known for being very vain and difficult. Sound like someone we know from the beginning of the film? So he's basically modeled after a 1700s hottie boy. Okay, Connor's looking at the picture now.
I'm looking at the picture.
I want you to see it.
Oh, she sees it. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. I see.
Yeah.
Even down to that pillowy, billowy shirt.
Yes,
too.
the outfit too. It's interesting. Adam also needed to have some of the features he has so that he would look a little bit like what we would stereotypically think a pretty asshole prince would look like. So all of this to say, Adam is absolutely blazing hot by the standards of his time. On top of that, Disney princes are always going to be products of the time that they're animated in. So though it seems hard to imagine now, one day Flynn Rider may feel very early 2000s, with the little goatee. He might look a little old or a little cringy.
He's timeless.
Yeah, I know. I hope it will happen, but you never know. But that's interesting because Adam feels pretty timeless to me, largely because of the historical accuracy of his looks, but there's also no doubt that he is a 90s style heartthrob. He has the chiseled athletic male body made popular by the Baywatch era of the 80s, with the long hair and slightly disheveled look of the approaching 90s grunge era.
The plunging V-neck?
Yeah, exactly. Somehow he is this perfect combination of 18th century aristocrat and 90s hottie without anything feeling incongruous, and that's a huge feat. Think of how very 1950s Prince Charming looks. His hairstyle and his clothing cut are definitely not of 16 or 1700s France. But because Adam is right on this line and of being of his time, but also being historically accurate, there's a timelessness to him. So let's move on to how Belle feels about him. And so this is where we're going to take down the people who say that she's not into him. You're so wrong. It's not even funny. So, okay. Belle's type. There is no ideal man for Belle necessarily because she isn't preoccupied with the ideas of love and marriage. However, we may get a hint about the kind of man she would find attractive from the book she is reading during Belle.
I was going to say the book.
It's up for debate what story Belle is reading when she sings about her favorite part where she meets Prince Charming. One Reddit user claims to have asked Belle in the parks, who told her it was Sleeping Beauty, which does make sense given the French setting, while others believe, and I can see this too, that the sequence is foreshadowing and that Belle is actually reading what will become her story, with the music matching this theory. But that's a whole other rabbit hole, and maybe we'll come back to it one day. I also wonder if it could be it doesn't quite fit, but Camelot, because then Camelot made its way into the Broadway show too. But
No, honey, this is Cinderella.
yeah, that crossed my mind
This
too.
is Cinderella.
Like the Lily
'Cause
James
she won't
version.
discover that it's him until chapter 3. Because when she meets him in the wood, this is Cinderella. She's reading Lily James.
She's reading Lily James, Cinderella. Yeah, that crossed my mind
we
too.
cracked it.
We cracked it. So regardless of what Bella's reading, she loves that part of the story. And the prince in the illustration has blonde hair and a dark blue outfit, much like the prince she will meet at the end of the film. So all I'm saying is, if the male love interest from my favorite book came to life, you can bet that I'm going to be really into it. Whatever type of man Belle is into, we can guarantee it's not Gaston. And to that I say amen. So some of the dark-haired, strong-chinned, hairy, burly versions of Adam that folks have created online just scream Gaston to me. And if there's someone who repulses you as much as Belle is repulsed by Gaston, it's going to be really hard to be into someone who looks like him. Tell me I'm wrong. There is a softness to Adam's features, his eyes, his hair, his lips, that also reflect a gentler essence that is probably a huge sigh of relief for Belle. Also, when the animators went out to create Belle, they were going to create a new kind of princess, and therefore she needs a new kind of prince. Belle was designed with more of a maturity in mind. She was modeled after actresses like Vivian Leigh and Grace Kelly, and her supervising animator, James Baxter, studied the art of Edgar Degas, famous for his depictions of ballerinas, in order to lend Belle's movements gracefulness. This classical influence is also obvious in Adam's design. He looks like he jumped right out of a Renaissance painting.
Or a ballet.
Or a ballet, yeah, true. They look like a match on screen because of this. An either burlier, verging on Gaston-esque, or scrappier looking like Aladdin or Flynn, or typical looking like Eric or Philip, none of these princes would have looked right next to Belle. Listen, I'm obsessed with her and I think she's perfect, so I don't think we can have anyone standing next to her who looks like anything less than classical artwork. Where Eric is hot because of his boyishness, which matches Ariel's youth, Adam is hot because he is nearly a fully grown man, with bone structure to match, might I add. Who
Not the bone structure.
I mean, damn, that bone structure. We'll get there.
It's good.
Who matches Belle's intelligence and maturity. She isn't like everyone else. She's different. That's her whole thing. And neither is Adam in the Disney Prince pantheon. He is very unique. And that's exactly who Belle should be with. Now let's talk about her reaction to him. Now this is where I'm going to get a little mad. So we have lots of people out there who think they're so funny. And like in the comments of some of these videos where people will pause it and be like, she looks disappointed. No. Okay? That's not what she's doing. Walk with me through this. Okay? You're living your regular life, not thinking that magic actually exists, when suddenly you are imprisoned by this insanely scary beast creature whose castle houses talking inanimate objects. He begins to show this understanding of you that no one in your life has had, and you feel yourself starting to fall in love with him. But then he is killed by the man that you loathe the most in the world. Then suddenly he is undead and turns into a human before your very eyes. And you're supposed to look at him like, damn, I'd like a piece of that? I really don't think so. Belle has no knowledge of the beast's curse, and she's seen some crazy things lately. What would make her immediately think that the transformation was the beast revealing his true form? She thought that his beast form was all there was. So when he says, "It's me," Belle is staying completely true to her character by stopping and taking a moment to be skeptical and to think through all of this information that is suddenly being provided to her.
And what she gathered in the West Wing.
Right. She isn't turned off or disappointed. The poor woman is taking 1 second to think. Okay. Also, then if I'm turned off by someone, let's say, the first thing that I'm not going to want to do is get right up in his face and stroke his hair. Then isolate the face that she makes when she recognizes his eyes. If that isn't the look of love, I do not know what is. Then she puts her hand to his face, clearly initiating the beginning of a kiss. Then later in the ballroom, Oh my God. Girl pulls her face right up to his for that kiss. It's like, don't even play with me right now, okay? She is into it. And I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy
Yeah.
for her.
Well, also, if we need further proof that she's attracted to him, when she goes into the West Wing and she sees the slashed portrait of the beast in his human form, and she puts that little piece back and looks at him, the
She's
way
feeling
her
it.
eyes are, she's like looking at him. Her eyes are animated so beautifully. It's like curious and everything. And like doesn't her hair like fall a little bit into her face
Yeah, and she
as
like
she's
tilts
looking
her
at him?
head. Yeah.
And she tilts her head and she's curious. She's attracted to it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and when she sees him in that moment after he transforms, she's like, I know this face. And
Yeah.
she's putting the pieces together. It's not like,
Yes.
oh my God, I hate this. She's like, I recognize you. That was you. Like she's having a string of thoughts that are going through her head. And if you watch the movie like a correct person, you would see those thoughts because the movie is immaculate in terms of how they've set this up. She is recognizing his eyes that are true of both being the eyes of the beast, but also the eyes that she saw when she put that piece of the painting back together in the West Wing before he yelled at her.
Yeah.
She's attracted to him. She was attracted to him then, and she's attracted to him now.
This is just one of those examples of, listen, when people find funny things in animated movies that they catch and they make a little reel about it, I'm into it. But when you're just trying to make something what you've decided that it is without any support, it's like it's not even funny. And that's when I caught myself when I was writing this and I'm like, okay, don't get upset. It's literally, he's just an animated character. Like, you're okay. But I guess it's something that bothers
the
me.
storytelling. Like, there are people who spent a lot of time animating
come
this
on.
and coming up with
Like,
a story,
come
and they
on.
were thinking about these things. They didn't just they spent years doing this.
Like they really animated Belle to look disappointed. Like, come on, guys, come on. It's not an actor. It's an animation. Everything has a clear decision behind it. Please stop. Okay, so fine. All of those things are objectively wrong. Now we're getting to the part that's a little bit more subjective. This is the section. It's a little bit more about taste. But Adam is just hot, okay? So even if you're not into Adam's absolutely stunning blue eyes that are full of vulnerability, his hugely muscular back. So for all of you wanting a burlier man, I ask, what are you actually talking about? Like how far have we strayed from the path that this man's chiseled body is not enough for you? But okay. His soft lips and hair. Okay. You don't like it? That's your prerogative. I would honestly like to know how you find other Disney princes hot, but not Adam, when he really checks all the boxes. But I will move on. Personally, there's no way I wouldn't want a human being who looks like that to do things to me. And I think my husband would be okay with me saying that. This is the first time that we really get so much focus on the features of a Disney prince. There is a detail to his lips, and I know, I keep bringing up his lips, just leave me alone. His hands, his eyes, that we have never seen before. Even though the detail on Prince Eric is a far cry from the very generic Florian, Charming, and Philip, Adam is at a very different level. The close-ups on his hands?
Oh, yes.
I just find this whole transformation scene so brilliant. I think about this transformation scene all the time. It is so brilliant. And it's interesting because I do think about it all. It's my Roman Empire. Actually, it really is. Wait,
Damn.
it is. It's fascinating to me because it really could have been animated in so many different ways. And this version is so dramatic and stirring and epic and sensual. The focus is so on the body. It feels like a Renaissance humanism piece. In a bonus featurette, now I read this online, I have not watched this featurette, but I'm trusting my source. I will link the source in the show notes. In a bonus featurette from the Diamond Edition Blu-ray of Beauty and the Beast, Glenn Keane says that while animating the transformation sequence, he kept a quote from the Bible nearby, Corinthians 5:17. It's a passage that reads, "If any man is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away and all things have become new." So number one, there's your support for why he needs to look completely different from the Beast. But also you can feel this like ancient biblical, high stakes emotion in this scene. You feel it. That's where the stakes are living. Now, even if you're not into someone's physical looks, I think we can all agree it's about how they use them, correct?
Yes.
So, if these few moments that we get to see of Adam are any indication, this man, he knows how to use his body. And this is after he has been without his human form for quite some time. I would argue this is the most sensual prince-princess moment that we've definitely had in a Disney animated film until this point. And honestly, it still holds the title today. There is no comparing.
It's this transformation scene, nothing has ever come close. And we've had transformation scenes since, and nothing has hit this in terms of just like, this is romance.
It is
incarnate.
Yes, it's
this
so
is
true.
The power of love incarnate.
It's like sometimes I feel like this transformation scene is like why our generation is like reading romantasy novels all the time, because I feel like we're trying to get
because we wanted to see the scene that happened right after this one.
And that's so true. I really do. Please. Oh man. I mean, the animators really took their time with this sequence. The buildup to the kiss is so fire. The first time Adam touches Belle, he softly pushes her hair out of her face, the habit that she usually has for herself.
Yes, baby, yes.
And he runs his hair. Oh my God, it's so good.
Oh my God, it's doing something.
It's doing things to me too. It's just such the choices that these animators made. I'm like, ooh, who animated this? Because you clearly know what you're doing.
It's because it's so specific.
It is.
It's none of that acting class like generic touching.
Correct.
It's specific
touching. So he runs his hand to the back of her head, using that to tip her face up towards him. Maybe I'm looking too far into this.
This is a Sarah J. Maas novel, people.
But maybe I'm looking too far into this, but I think
he tips her face. Oh.
I think you can really feel his enjoyment in being able to touch Belle without those damn paws. And I love it.
Yes.
He's like, oh my God, I'm not going to hurt her. I can really
but also like when he grabs himself.
Oh my God, stop it.
When he like grabs his chest and I'm
stop it. You can't talk to me about that.
Help me.
Stop it.
And there was something about like that fur like blowing away into his hair.
No.
Shit.
Oh man.
Sorry.
So then,
please keep going.
Yes, my pleasure. Then there is almost a full, I counted, 10 damn seconds of these two gazing into each other's eyes and Belle laying her hands on his massive chest before they kiss gently. But then as the magic swirls around them, they just wrap their arms around each other and they're just like one being.
But she's not into it, remember?
But no, she's right. She's disgusted by him. I forgot. Yeah. Also, this man can waltz. So for any of you out there that are still not convinced that Adam is hot, it's funny because that's what makes me laugh. I truly dare you to be held and kissed like that by anyone and not melt into an actual puddle. I wouldn't be able to stand. I wouldn't. If you look at the stained glass window during Beauty and the Beast's prologue, you'll see the Latin phrase that means he conquers who conquers himself. Vincit qui se vincit. I never took Latin. Sorry if I said it wrong. So while we get some excellent character growth and arcs from other Disney princes, Adam's is truly top-notch. This man has conquered himself. Not a dragon, not a shoe trying on mission, and not a sea witch, no matter how very brave that might be. This man learned to humble himself, to be patient, to accept what he doesn't know, to share, to sacrifice, to love. When it comes to Aladdin, Flynn, Naveen, other princes who learn to change their ways, we get a lot more time with them, and we get to hear them reflect a bit on what they've learned or who they're becoming. While we do get to see Adam do this in his beast form, we simply aren't going to connect that evolution with him as a human because he does things like let Belle go in his beast form. Not to mention, it really feels like Adam is being judged by a completely different standard than other Disney princes are judged by. It's like the things that people say. People want him to be beefier. Okay. Number one, look at his side profile, and I ask you literally, how do you want the man to explode? But also, like, he could probably lift up Aladdin with one arm. I saw a comment that said his face is weird. So, Connor, side note, that comment that I saw in a video particularly bothered me because they're talking about the first full frontal 2-camera moment that we see of Adam. First of all, I mean, it's perfect to me, but that's my opinion.
Perfect.
People are talking about why his nose looks weird. His eyes look like they're too far apart. His chin looks bizarre.
They're doing cell shading shadow.
Yeah. The way that the light is hitting him is reminiscent of the way that the light hits the beast in the same turnaround when Belle first sees him. There's thought behind everything, people. Like, you can't honestly tell me that you think that the animators sloppily animated the first time we get to see the prince's face. No way. No way.
It's literally carbon copy light positioning of when he comes into the light.
Yeah.
Like when she says step into the light, and here he is himself stepping into the light in front of her, and so the light is exactly the same.
And the very extraness of that moment of like the and like the glowing behind him, it is deserved. Like I said, this is all such a Renaissance painting. He is straight out of one. The moment needs it. And I think, and again, this part people could probably argue with me with till forever because it's taste. I think his looks live up to that.
I do too. Also, when you were talking about how we don't really get to see him in his human form, like be the changed person, we do a very little bit in his interactions with Mrs. Potts and the other servants in the way that he like very passionately embraces them. Mm-hmm. That's not the character in the beginning that turns away an old woman. He's like sharing in this moment of love with them as opposed to like just up there feeling himself and like not thinking about the
literally
servants.
Feeling himself.
I mean, he was feeling himself, but he immediately is thinking about others. He's thinking about the servants who their lives have also been changed and making sure that and checking in on them and seeing how they are and celebrating with them because he realizes that his mistake cost them. And so there's a level of selflessness in it where he's thinking about others in this moment.
The first word out of his mouth is Belle. That's the first thing he says after he was dead. And everything changes in his life and he says,
and it's in that
Belle.
Breathy that like, Belle.
Robbie Benson, first of all, bravo forever.
The range. The vocal performances in this show.
Oh, please.
Like,
Robbie
unmatched.
Benson also, those baby blues are taken right from Robbie Benson.
Straight out
those
of him,
eyes.
yeah.
Oh, God. Okay, so we're going to talk about, sorry, we got sidetracked, but the complaint about, his face looks weird in that shot, debunked, but also, I'm sorry, I hate to throw other princes under the bus, but have y'all seen Prince Florian? Please pull some of the screenshots.
His nose is inconsistent.
He looks insane, okay? And I'm not saying that anybody's out here saying that Florian is the hottest prince, but regardless, in what way is this man not enough in the pantheon of princes? It really makes no sense to me. I don't know, maybe our standards are high because Ms. Belle deserves the world, and honestly, it really looks like she's going to get it based off of the way this man is really touching her, okay? And I'm happy for her. But again, I think some of it has to do with, and I will share on the Instagram this template that's going around that's like circle your favorite Disney prince. That is not the Adam from the film. I don't know what is going on. I don't know how people get it so wrong. Like, I know Flynn Rider's the one who says they can't get my nose right. They can't get Adam's nose right. They can't get anything right about him. And I just find that so strange.
Because how could they touch godliness?
It's yeah, though. So like I said earlier, if you find the beast's looks and body hotter than his human form, power to you, people. And we'll get to that more in a moment when Connor does his rave. But I really believe that the other things that we love in the beast, the sweet eyes, his vulnerability when learning to dance, his gifting of the library to Belle, those are all Adam's qualities. But the thing that cracks me up the most of all, this movie is all about loving what's within. And y'all online are coming for Adam, who by all standards is truly like top-notch, conventionally attractive. You're coming for his looks. To that I say, tough fucking crowd. I think you all need a rewatch because if you pull up the transformation scene alone, whatever this and Adam have become in your memory are going to be replaced. When you watch this man's profile dip his head down to hold Belle and kiss her, you're not going to be the same. And so, with that, my personal hot man meeting is now adjourned. People coming for Adam is just so bizarre to me. And I'm going to try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt and just be like, yep, you've looked at the Disney Plus icon too many times and you forgot. So everybody needs to go rewatch the movie, but also the scene, but also the movie.
And also, like, more for me, I guess.
Yeah, fine. And you know what? I am buying that lounge fly.
Do it.
Buying that lounge fly.
Absolutely.
Just solidify that. I'm buying it.
That's what this episode was really for. This was a pitch to yourself to buy that lounge fly.
It was. Thank you.
You've succeeded.
And I succeeded. Cap achieved.
All right. Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think that was a perfect rant. Like, infuriating.
And I know that there are going to be people listening who are going to reach out to us and are going to be like, nope, you didn't convince me. And it hurts. But I know I have to live with that.
But it's also like, why is it then on our responsibility to convince you to have an open mind, you know?
Okay, true.
Like, why is it on me to convince you that your opinion is wrong? Objectively. Speaking of objective opinions and things that are correct, I'm going to take the Rave now.
Please do.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. All right. Disney is no stranger to making very attractive foxes. From Todd, our bisexual king, and the vixen in The Fox and the Hound, to Nick Wilde in Zootopia, there is something about these anthropomorphic animals that is just hot. We all know it, so stop lying to yourselves. I was going to do this rave about the hotness of Disney foxes in general, but as I prepared this rave, it really all stems from the original sexy fox, Robin Hood, from the 1973 animated film.
Wow.
A formula was built with Robin Hood that could be reused and rearranged to create anthropomorphic animals that were meant in some way to be seen as attractive.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than a more generalized rave about all the Disney foxes, I am going to look specifically at how Robin Hood, the root of all attractive animals in Disney, is objectively hot. And it's okay to say so. So before I go in, some sources: Wikipedia, Jerry Roberts at armchaircinema.com, Jim Corcus at cartoonresearch.com, Deja Vu, RuPaul's Drag Race, and my childhood.
Yes.
And you'll know why in a second. So some background information real quick. Robin Hood was released November 8th, 1973, and it premiered at Radio City Music Hall in New York City. The director was Wolfgang Reitherman. It's based on the legend of Robin Hood. The story is by Larry Clemens, Ken Anderson, Vance Jerry, Frank Thomas, Eric Cleworth, Julia Svensson, and David Michener. The producer is, again, Wolfgang Reitherman, and it stars, among others, Brian Bedford as Robin Hood, Phil Harris as Little John, Peter Ustinov as Prince John, Terry Thomas as Sir Hiss, Monica Evans as Maid Marian, Pat Buttram as the Sheriff of Nottingham, Carol Shelley, Madame Marble of Wicked as Lady Cluck, and Roger Miller as Alan Adale. The plot synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes, because I just grabbed this one. So an amiable rooster called Alan Adale tells stories and sings songs of the heroic Robin Hood and his trusty sidekick Little John in this animated, animal-themed adaptation of the legendary story. When evil Prince John deputizes the Sheriff of Nottingham to collect unreasonable taxes from the animals of Sherwood Forest, Robin, Little John, and the other merry men wage a lighthearted battle against their evil foes. And then one other little thing I'll just note here. So in 2020, it was announced that Disney would be producing a CGI quote-unquote live-action adaptation of Robin Hood for a premiere on Disney Plus, with stars like Chris Evans expressing interest in voicing the characters. And honestly, I feel like Chris Evans would be a fantastic choice.
Yeah, he would.
And while I love reimagining these older films when revisiting material to adapt into live-action films, A live action all animal adaptation of Robin Hood is gonna be hard to do if they go for that hyper realistic Nat Geo style of that we saw in The Lion King.
That would be so odd. It would be so
At the very
odd.
least, they're gonna have a hard time convincing us that a real fox is hot when it's not animated like the fox we know and fell in love with. So, how did we get a fox in the first place? That's where we're gonna start. So Walt Disney, he had always wanted to adapt the story of Reynard the Fox, although he felt that the trickster character would be hard to portray as the hero. Side note, the fortune teller scene in Robin Hood is an element that comes from the stories of Reynard the Fox. So it's a little nod to where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Around the time that they were working on the Aristocats, Walt Disney Animation began thinking of the next animated feature that they would produce. They had thrown around the idea of the Chanticleer story, which Don Bluth later created when he left Disney with Rockadoodle in 1991.
Oh
Hell yeah,
my God,
Rockadoodle.
Rockadoodle. Oh,
Mhm.
oh.
Animator Ken Anderson, who designed all of the characters in Robin Hood, proposed to the studio adapting The Legend of Robin Hood as an animated feature. And given that the studios had produced a live-action studio film called The Story of Robin Hood and His Merry Men in 1952, the most obvious way for Disney Animation to make it different was to represent the characters as animals, which is sort of like their tried and true method at this point. Ken Anderson knew right away that a sly Robin Hood would best be represented by a fox, successfully bringing the Reynard concept to fruition. Again, all of the animal designs were done by Ken Anderson, and then they were prepared for animation by Milt Kahl. Kahl's concept was to manipulate the animal bodies as if they were humans, which typical animal skeletons would not account for. Essentially, it resulted in furry humanoid bipedal bodies with animal heads.
Mm.
With this fusion, Disney inadvertently launched one of the most influential films to the furry community. People who identify with, portray, or in some cases are attracted to anthropomorphic animals. So now let's talk about what is hot. A lot of what makes someone hot or sexy or attractive is subjective. We've talked about this. It takes into account a wide range of things from their voice, their hair, their eyes, the way they carry themselves, the environment around them, physical symmetry or perceived fertility, smell, etc. The list goes on and on. There has to be a simpler lens through which we can look at attractiveness to find something universal. Well, Caroline, I believe there is. When I think of someone who is the epitome of attractive, someone that instantly draws you in and sparks curiosity, someone who is exciting, sexually or not, there isn't a better example than a drag queen.
Ugh.
They can reflect different body types, styles, fashion, talents, etc. But every one of them is hot, is attractive, is sexy. And so how do we measure a drag queen? RuPaul would say it would be how abundant they are in serving CUNT, charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. So that is how we are going to look at Robin Hood today. And yes, I recognize that me using RuPaul's Drag Race terminology to analyze how an anthropomorphic Disney fox is objectively attractive is probably the most unhinged thing I have ever done on this podcast. But listen, we're going there, so strap in.
I think that's why people are here.
Fair enough. All right. So let's start with charisma. A lot goes into charisma. This is your natural ability to draw people in and have them gravitate toward you. It's your charm, your wit, your manners. Robin Hood oozes charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is more charming than a romantic.
Yeah.
He is a romantic through and through. This is a foxy man who believes in love. And not just that, but loves love. We see this time and time again. It's in the scene where he is lost daydreaming about Maid Marian and burns his dinner. The dinner ain't the only thing burning here, folks. He reminisces on the times they spent together as kids, falling in love, and wonders if she would even remember him. There is genuine joy at the thought of her and pure longing that he could have what they once had before they were separated.
Ah, cute.
It's in the initials carved into the tree inside the castle grounds where he pledged his love to Marion all those years ago. It's in the line where, upon the discovery that he is the stork in the archery competition and he is bound and manacled before the court, #hot, Robin looks directly into Marion's eyes and says, among the first words he has said to her in years, quote, "Marion, my darling, I love you more than life itself."
Oh
He's
my
about to
God.
die. And like the first, he just direct addresses her and says, "I love you more than life itself." He's a romantic. It's in the scene that follows where he fights off the palace guards at the archery tournament with Marion safely behind him. He eludes them and beats them back with ease, but where is his focus? It's always on Marion. He keeps her calm and sure, excitedly planning their life together and professing his love to her. That is hot, 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 people. And also, let's note here that Marion is very capable in her own right and fully pies one of the vultures in the face, taking him out of commission. And then don't even get me started on the physical prowess of Lady Cluck, because I could do an entire rave just about Lady Cluck and how she's probably a perfect character.
You should one day. You have to.
I will. It's in the consistent use of long eye contact with Maid Marian, which they've set up as him looking directly into the camera, aka our eyes.
Yeah.
Eye contact is one of the easiest ways to draw someone into you, and among most people, one of the top traits of an attractive person. And there's a lot of eye contact with Robin, and there's a lot of eye contact directly with us.
Same with Adam.
They knew what they were doing.
I'm dying over this. Interesting.
They knew what they were doing. It's in the entirety of the scene that accompanies the song Love, which was nominated for an Oscar. Robin takes her hand and he never lets go as he guides her through that beautiful moonlit night in Sherwood Forest. But also, let's talk about real quick how he holds her hand. He takes it and swings it playfully. He holds it by his side gently. He tucks it under his arm so that he can hold her closer as they walk. It's actually some of the most romantic hand holding I've ever seen in Disney. This is dating goals. This is that specificity we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's an ever achievable fantasy date. And it's with this fox who is doing everything right. So of course he's going to be hot and we're going to be attracted to him. You know what also draws people in? Knowing how to have fun. We see Robin turn perilous situations into fun escapes and deceptions throughout the film. But we also get to see him simply enjoying life right out of the gate with the Oodalali scene. Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest, laughing back and forth at what the other one has to say. They spend their day walking and swimming and goofing off and enjoying themselves. And isn't that attractive, seeing people enjoying themselves? We want to be a part of that fun, and maybe, just maybe, that person is the key to the fun. The last charismatic trait that I'm going to bring up, though I could honestly continue, is that this man is good with kids. He goes out of his way to make Skippy's birthday special after the sheriff ruins it by taking his present for Prince John's taxes.
Oh.
But moreover, he protects kids. He saves that poor little baby bunny Tagalong when she falls behind in the jailbreak, knowing that he will be trapped inside the portcullis. And when Skippy bravely fights back with his bow and arrow in the jailbreak, Robin Hood keeps him safe. There's that moment where Skippy draws his arrow back, and then Robin appears at his side and does the same. Oof, that hits me right in the fertility hormones, baby.
Yeah.
And really, that's what it's about, people. Seeing people who are good with kids activates a side of our biology that looks for prospective partners for ourselves. We ask ourselves, would this person be a good parent to our children? Disney really set us up for this one, folks. They shouldn't be surprised when we fell hard for Robin.
Oh, Skippy.
Uniqueness. This is where we're going to talk about what sets people or anthropomorphic animals apart. And I'm going to mainly rely on the physical appearance and attributes here. And yes, he's a fox, but he's modeled after and moved in the style of a human body. So a lot of the things that we find attractive in ourselves, in the way that we're built, move, etc., are present here in Robin. So we're going to talk about them. This fox has a slim to athletic build that in the United States is typically seen or reflected by our media to us as an attractive body type. Among more specific features that we find attractive, Robin Hood has a strong torso, chest, and shoulders, a body type that can support you and keep you safe. He has a thick neck, perfect for wrapping arms around, that is indicative of power. He has exposed, lean forearms, again, someone who is strong and capable. And he has a defined jaw, which suggests determination, resilience, and assertiveness.
I did always look at his forearms as a kid.
The forearms, baby.
Yeah.
Which also, they're in some art, his forearms are beefier. Oh,
shoot.
honey. Outside of the typically attractive body type, I've just got to say, his tail is so fluffy. It's animated like that fluffy boa that Madame Adelaide wears in the Aristocats, which looks like the softest, most cuddly, most comfortable thing on the planet. So, like, listen, it ain't hurting Mr. Robin here. It's attractive in that it is alluring and we all want to touch it. So let's not lie to ourselves. We want to touch it. And wanting to touch something that is attractive, by definition, that's attractive. Next up, we've got unique mannerisms that set him apart and, are just sexy. I've already talked about the hand holding and the charisma section, but fuck if I don't want someone to hold my hand that way. Robin has a level of swagger that comes from his confidence that puts this sort of playful bounce in his step. His movements are both sure and exciting. He's also unafraid to smile, which that's a big one. We are easily attracted to people who are able to feel joy without shame or trying to lessen it or hide it. His smile around Marion, his laughter, his joy from helping others, and optimism that someday there will be happiness again in Nottingham, it's infectious. And listen, if they didn't want us to be attracted to Robin, why would they have posed him in that GQ magazine centerfold sexy lean on your side propped up by your elbow pose when he's daydreaming about Marion doing the cooking? It's a classic male model pose, and they knew what they were doing. And listen, we couldn't not talk about the husky baritone British accent of Robin's voice. It's that warm, roguish tenor to his voice that is easy to listen to. And what is easy is often attractive. So thank you, Brian Bedford, for your voice. All right, next up we have nerve. This is someone's boldness, their bravery, and their confidence. And if Robin Hood is not bold, brave, and confident, someone's going to have to do an entire rant about that because I simply do not believe you. Let's look at a couple examples from the film where we see this play out. Robin is very sure of himself in his morality. And this, dear listeners, is hot. We love someone who has a clear sense of what is right and what is wrong. And even though Robin is someone who steals from the rich to give to the poor, there is a defined code that he follows. And he never fails to give the most he can to those in need, often putting his own life at risk. We see this in the scene with the mother rabbit after Skippy and the kids have left. Robin hands her some money and says, "I only wish I could do more." And as he leaves, she begins to cry as she remarks, "Oh, Robin, you risk so much to keep our hopes alive. Bless you." Oh. And Robin's moral compass is not easily changeable, especially when confronted with danger and death. At the archery tournament, when he is bound and surrounded by the guards, he pops off to Prince John saying, "Traitors to the crown, that crown belongs to King Richard," and starts a chant in the crowd of "Long live King Richard." He is at his most vulnerable, confronted with the possibility of imminent death, and he is not hesitating to speak truth to power. And the last bit of confidence I want to throw out here, because it's fitting with the criteria that I'm using. Robin is secure and confident enough in his masculinity and sexuality to go all in on his drag fortune teller persona. This male fox enthusiastically adorns feminine clothing, wigs, earrings, makeup, pitches his voice. He's just into it. Work. Altruism is objectively sexy. Morality is objectively sexy. Drag is objectively sexy. Robin's assuredness in using drag to right an abuse of power to help the poor is objectively sexy, and I won't hear otherwise. Talent, the T of CUNT. These are skills that set you apart from the rest, abilities at which you excel or are special. I think it's safe to say that none of us would want to go up against Robin in an archery contest. He makes a meal of that tournament like it's nothing. He splits arrows down the middle, shoots arrows in midair, all while wearing stilts and making it look effortless. He casually sinks these arrows right in the bullseye and wins the archery tournament with ease. Seeing somebody in their element succeeding at the things that they excel at, that is always going to be attractive. Think about your talent crushes that you might have. But not only is he an exceptional archer, but he's a swordsman and an acrobat too. He deftly beats those guards back when escaping from the tournament with Marion, taking on multiple armed guards at a time and knocking them all out of the way. He swings on ropes, carrying Marion to safety. He dodges attacks left and right, and at the end of the film, full-on swan dives from the top of a burning tower into the moat below. For most people, developing that kind of athleticism would be all-consuming. But for Robin, it's just another Tuesday. And listen, we don't hear Robin sing, but we do hear him humming. And the voice is good, people. The pipes are there.
I cannot.
Singing is sexy, and it's pretty clear that Robin is a singer. Swoon.
Oh my God.
And the last talent I've got to call out here from one performer to another is his skill as an actor. In the course of this less than 90-minute film, we see Robin portray 4 other distinct and fully realized characters, complete with specific voices, varying dialects, and in some cases, direct impression. That shit ain't easy, folks. He is giving a Jefferson Mays Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder style performance, and that isn't even the main focus or selling point of the movie.
That's a great comparison.
I know. Brava, sexy fox man. Brava. All in all, it is entirely too easy to develop a talent crush on Robin. He is extremely capable, and his skills cover a vast range. Who knows what other skills and talents he has that we haven't seen in this film? And isn't that enough to draw you in and want to know more? So yeah, this is basically the end. I know this was one of the wildest and crazy and probably disjointed things I've ever done on the podcast, but whatever, it's done. Welcome to season 4, people. In season 4, we tell it like it is, and Robin Hood is hot, attractive, sexy, what have you. I've proven it. I've given you the ammunition you need to defend yourselves because, dear listeners, we all think that Robin Hood is attractive. He is dunked head to toe in charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. And if Disney didn't want us to have the hots for a cartoon animal, they shouldn't have created the perfect man and anthropomorphized him as a fox.
Yeah, yes.
And that's what I've got to say about that.
He is such a romantic. When you were talking about his eyes, I do remember that really impacting me as a kid when he looks into the camera.
We get a couple moments where he's looking, because when he's in his stork costume and she sees his eyes, and that's how she recognizes him, we get the close-up of the back and forth of both of their eyes. And then when they're in the love scene and he's like puts the ring on her finger and everything,
yes,
we get the back and forth close-ups of their eyes as well. There's a lot of like very, very direct, meaningful eye contact.
It's interesting how Disney is pulling a lot of the same like shots and ideas with Adam and with Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So further proof that it's not just us finding Robin Hood hot. It was being done to us.
Yes, there is a formula. There's a structure for depicting romance in an animated film. And there are things that we as humans consistently will find attractive. And eye contact is far and away one of the biggest things that humans will consistently find as attractive, hot, or sexy. So naturally, they're going to go all in on the eyes, which is why I'm like, people, Adam's eyes are sexy. So like, the way that he looks at Belle is hot. The way that Robin looks at Marion is hot. I mean,
Mhm.
he is pining after her. He is like just a good person through and through, like helping
Yeah.
people, having fun, good at shit, like talented beyond measure. And here he is. And the thing that was worrying him the most is I don't know if this girl that I really, really liked from when I was a
Oh.
kid even remembers me. And
Oh.
she's doing the same thing.
Oh my
Where she's like,
god.
I haven't seen him. Will he even remember me? Do you think he'll show up to the tournament? He's willing to risk being killed for the chance to win a kiss from Maid Marian as the prize of this archery tournament. Knowing full well that it's
So
probably a trap,
cute.
he's like, I'm willing to do it anyway because I might have a chance to get a kiss from this woman that I love.
Oh my god.
Like,
It's
that's
good.
hot, people.
It's good.
He's like a daredevil with a heart of gold, but like he has just enough of that like edginess to him.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, I'm like, he is not as edgy as Flynn Rider. He is
Yes,
who Flynn
correct.
Rider like wants to be, but
Yeah.
can't deny the scrappiness part of him.
Yeah,
Like
right.
Robin Hood is still scrappy, but his morals and everything, like his code of ethics,
Yeah.
are so strong and so pure.
And
that
this
it's like,
version of him, this
ugh.
animal version of him, has a softness that makes me like him more than other versions of Robin Hood. Because other versions
Yeah.
of Robin Hood have a hard edge that's not really for me. But he doesn't really have that.
This Robin is just like, he's just warm
He's
and
a romantic.
cuddly.
You nailed it.
He's a
Yeah,
romantic.
He is. Mm.
And I like a version of Robin Hood where Robin is a romantic first and foremost.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's like, that is his soul. Like helping others and doing all that is going to be a given of the story. So show us something else. And it's like his
Mhm.
constant, the thing that he wants more than anything is to share a life with Marion.
Yeah.
And that's important to see in someone who wants so many things for other people. Like so much of what drives him is outward. Having something that is inward, something that he himself wants, and putting that forward as much as they do in this movie really makes all the difference in making the character very likable and come to life.
Oh, so true.
Alrighty, well, that is the first Rant and Rave of season 4. Things are heating up,
Yay.
folks. It is hot, hot, hot in here. If you liked what you heard, please remember to hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast, so all of our episodes download to your device and you don't miss out on anything. And then if you haven't done this already in this episode, hit 5 stars and just type in a few words about some of the things that you liked. Let us know where you're coming from, where you found the podcast, so that we can double down our efforts there to try and grow the podcast. And please, oh, please, oh, please, recommend the podcast to a friend. Blast it on social media. Tell people about it. We're in season 4 now, people. So we want to get as many people listening as we possibly can. So thank you for your help in helping us grow, because that'll allow us to keep getting more episodes out to you.
And please follow us on social media if you are not already. We are at Poor Unfortunate Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and TikTok. So y'all know at this point that social media is kind of wacky right now. If you haven't been seeing stuff from us on social media, just like type in Poor Unfortunate Podcast. Go, like, for example, pop over to our Instagram, look at our story, maybe like a post, and that should help get us back in there, just so you can keep up to date with when we announce new episodes coming out. Sometimes we tease bonuses, all that good stuff. And social media is also a great way to maybe introduce folks to the podcast as well. We leave little samples on our Instagram of the episode when we drop it. Send that to somebody you think might be into the episode. And if you want even more Poor Unfortunate Podcast in your life, please join our private Facebook group, the Poor Unfortunate Fam. We have about 100 members in there. We talk about the episodes. I'm sure you all are going to have some thoughts after this one. This was a spicy one. So please join and let us know what you think about Adam and about Robin Hood. Listen, I know Facebook is whatever. I don't do anything on Facebook now except go chat with people in the fam. So you can totally do that too. And we would love to meet you, know what kind of episodes you're loving, know what you want to hear more about, and just like put faces to names and know who's out there listening. So please join us.
And if you're looking for merch, the Poor Unfortunate shop is open. That's poorunfortunatepodcast.com/shop. And you can get t-shirts, water bottles, hats, things like that to show your love for the podcast and, wear on public transit, wear to the parks when you go or something like that. Caroline just went on a trip and her whole family was wearing Poor Unfortunate podcast merch.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So get your merch if you're going to the park, if you're going out and about doing something Disney, and we'll hook you up. And as I always say, it does take us a little bit of money to keep the podcast up and running and coming to you. We do have a PayPal account. It is linked in our episode description and in the website links on our social media accounts. Truly anything that you have to spare, it goes a long way for us. It could be $1, $5, $10, more than that. It could be a one-time donation or it could be a monthly donation. It all just goes right back into the podcast, helping us keep it free and ad-free for the most part. Like, how many times are you listening to a podcast that's completely ad-free? Like, let's be real about that. So thank you very much for your consideration in donating. And to all of our monthly donors, thank you so, so much for what you do. This wouldn't happen without you. Okie dokie. Well,
Woohoo,
here we go.
go.
And we'll actually be back next week for a little episode of Caroline, What's New, where we go over some of the recent Disney news. It's a new thing that we're doing now for season 4. So we'll see you next week for a little mini episode. And then we'll be back again with our showdown. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be great.
It is.
Welcome to season 4. Until next time, Beluga Savruga.